Tom and Jackie Hawks were kidnapped, taken out to the deepest part of the Pacific on board their beloved yacht, well-deserved, handcuffed and tied to an anchor, then thrown overboard.
You know, the old conversation we have, you know, as we're kids, what would be the worst way to go? Do you burn to death? Do you freeze to death? You know, like that conversation that we've all had. The worst way to die is the way Tom and Jackie Hawks died.
The brand new grandparents were still alive when the 50-pound anchor plummeted to the bottom of the sea, dragging the helpless couple 3,600 feet straight down.
She's crying. How do you cry and hold your breath at the same time?
I didn't believe what I was looking at. It just pushed on me.
Alonzo McChain witnessed the inhumanity and unbearable cruelty of Skylar De Leon, the twisted mastermind behind the murders.
Skylar picked up this massive anchor and threw it over the side of the boat, and then they have the most horrific death I can imagine. Their bodies were never recovered.
McChain, who helped De Leon kidnap the Hawks, is now a witness against him, telling investigators after Skylar threw the Hawks overboard, he started getting rid of any sign of the Hawks.
He collected all of Tom and Jackie's personal photographs and tossed them overboard like they were Frisbees. Skylar had no remorse at all. Skylar De Leon is a complete psychopath.
Once Skylar got rid of the evidence, McChain tells investigators De Leon and a gang member named John F. Kennedy, who Skylar hired to help carry out the murders, kicked back and started fishing on the way back to harbor in Newport Beach, California.
How was Skylar acting, maybe while this was happening?
He was calm, like it was the most normal thing.
Skylar De Leon, John F. Kennedy, and Alonzo McChain are all charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. But just days later, Jennifer De Leon, Skylar's pregnant wife, is still standing by her man.
This is really hard, not having him and having the baby without him, and my daughter misses him.
Telling a Los Angeles television station her husband is absolutely innocent.
Is he capable of what they say that he has done? Is he capable of killing Thomas and Jackie Hawks?
I don't even know how to answer that.
But cops have the answer, and Jennifer's not gonna like it. They say not only is Skylar 100% guilty, but she is too. Prosecutors charged Jennifer with 2 counts of murder, claiming she helped carry out the murders from the shore. The motive, clear and simple, the De Leons wanted money. Jennifer De Leon sealed the deal with her children, with her presence.
She's a witch. She knew that they had no money, and yet she's going out to meet the people that are selling Skylar this yacht, and she's bringing her child. She might as well tie the anchor to those people and throw them over too.
Separate juries hear each case, but they all come back with the same verdict: guilty. Jennifer De Leon is sentenced to life behind bars. Alonzo McChain is given leniency and sentenced to 20 years, and John F. Kennedy is sentenced to death for the double murder. But what about Skylar De Leon? You're not going to believe it. Before his trial even begins, he's hit with a 3rd murder rap.
He had not only murdered the Hawks, but he had slit the throat of another American in Mexico a year earlier.
Cops say De Leon slit the throat of a man named John Jarvie.
The world's most manipulative, evil human convinces John Jarvie that he's got a can't-lose transaction down in Mexico, probably involving drugs, and he can triple or quadruple his money if he'll just give him $50,000 in cash.
Prosecutors say there was no deal. The motive for the murder, it was all for fun.
They purchased a new car because they wanted something to tool their little brood around in, and he made a bunch of internet purchases, including a $658 piston-driven sex toy.
Nearly 5 years after the Hawks were murdered, De Leon faces trial. The verdict, guilty. The sentence, death. That was the motive, right? Just
Right.
greed.
Oh, absolutely. Greed and shortcuts.
But was it really all about the cash? Nope. It was really about the change.
There was another motive, and it was a primary motive, and that was that Skylar De Leon wanted to get gender reassignment surgery.
Author Caitlin Rother, who wrote the book about the Hawks' grisly murder titled Dead Reckoning, says De Leon desperately needed $17,000 to pay for surgery to transition from he to she.
He had already put down a $500 deposit on this surgery and had one scheduled for 2 weeks after the Hawks were murdered, but they didn't have the money.
Rother knows Skylar De Leon as well as anyone. She started visiting him in prison while researching her book.
All Skylar wanted to talk about was how he wanted to get rid of his penis.
But with no money and thinking there was no chance of making the transition while sitting in a cell, Rother says Skylar made a desperate attempt.
He tried to cut his penis off in jail with a razor.
But now the state of California is paying for Skylar to transition into a woman. This is how Skylar looks today, sitting in the psych ward on death row at San Quentin.
And Skylar is now living as a woman and wants to be called she.
What do you think about that?
It's ridiculous. I mean, there are legitimate people out there with transgender issues that work their tails off their whole life if they are lucky enough to get a surgery. Skylar doesn't deserve that right. Skylar doesn't get to kill people and then get rewarded, and that's kind of the way it feels.
The former detective does have sympathy, not for Skylar, but for Skylar's victims. How would you remember the Hawks?
I love their family because they're genuinely good people. If they weren't putting on an act with my detectives. I look at the Pacific Ocean and I think of them every time.
This is Captain Tom Hawks, and well-deserved outing.
As you might have expected, De Leon and his wife have since divorced while behind bars. De Leon continues to maintain he had nothing to do with the Hawks' death and has appealed his conviction. I'm Chris Hansen. If you like this story, make sure you tune in every day to Crime Watch Daily. You can find where the show airs in your city at crimewatchdaily.com. Watch it live or record it on your DVR and watch it at night. And to all those criminals out there, remember, we are watching.